It's time to talk about the times because we are men of the times and a lot of stuff is going on that we need to talk about. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody, to the Men of the Times podcast. We are glad that you are with us. We're happy to be talking with you again. We have a little bit of a shift in the crew, but we have the regular cast of characters that we normally have here on the Men of the Times podcast. I, of course, am one of your illustrious hosts, Justin, filling in for British tea. Oh, you were drinking tea earlier, but now you're drinking bourbon. But filling in for British tea all the way back from the mystical lands that he travels to. It's Traveling Joe. What's up, Joe?
Hey.
Oh, man of many words, Joe. Good to chat. Good to see you. How are you?
Fabulous.
You're fabulous. Hey, you guys, you're finally back after all your travels. We're happy to have you here, back with us. Are you as equally happy to be back with us? Is the question.
We'll see.
So ominous. It's so ominous. All right. Well, I'm happy you're back and talking about crazy things that are going on in our world because you have traveled much of it. So I'm curious your perspective on what we're going to talk about. And then we also have here the others, we will say.
We got two
the
Walmart
others,
Jamies today.
The others. We have the
Walmart
foreign
Jamie,
guy.
Assistant Walmart Jamie.
Hey guys, what's
Yes.
up?
Hello, foreign guy.
AKA Assistant
Glad to be
Walmart
here.
Jamie.
Foreign guy.
We'll see.
So we have foreign guy. Foreign guy, how are you?
Good. Excited to be here.
Exactly. Good. We're also excited to have you here, foreign guy. And of course, nothing would be complete without Discount Jamie. Discount Jamie, hello.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Discount Jamie in the corner, giving us all of our factoids throughout the day.
You guys are making me think I'm making a mistake by putting my face up on here.
You're giving the people
you're
what
good,
they
man.
want.
You're good.
People don't want to see Walmart Jamie. They want to see you.
Yeah.
You have a good face.
Do
You have a
they?
great
Yeah.
face.
Yeah,
you-
look at that
photogenic.
stash.
Look at that smile.
Look at that smile. Oh. If people are just listening to this, they have no idea. They might think you're really ugly, but we know you're a handsome devil. Look at you.
Joe, do you want to describe yourself for our non-visual
I
audience?
think maybe we should describe what you guys look like.
I'm
No.
fat and hideous. No one wants to hear about me.
He plays video games in his basement, in his mom's basement.
Literally
clearly.
all day.
Yeah. All right. So we got an interesting list of topics of things that are going on in our world that are very interesting, worth noting and worth talking about. So we're going to talk about Google AI, the counter to Chat GPT, Gemini. It's not just a star sign that girls talk about to decide if they want to date you or not. It's an AI bot, and it's doing some crazy things. Apparently, it's too woke. It's not the woke and where you're afraid it's going to take over humanity. It's the other type of woke. So we're going to talk about that. And then also Sean Evans, the host of Hot Wings on YouTube, apparently he dated a corn star, and then he decided he didn't like corn anymore and chucked her out in the bin
Or
after he put a
maybe
little butter
that's
on that.
because he only liked the corn.
Could be. But after he buttered his kernels, he threw it out in the trash is what he did on Valentine's Day. So we're going to talk about that. What does that mean for the dating culture? Did he make a mistake? We'll talk about it. So let's get into the first topic then. So Discount Jamie, you were talking about this. You're the one who said we should talk about this, so I appreciate you said that. So it's Gemini.
Yeah.
And
So
Google and it's wokey wokeville over there. What's going on?
So, a lot of earlier AIs, and this is even predating ChatGPT, just any sort of like neural net driven technology, ranging from like more generic facial recognition stuff to like even like soap dispensers, anything that like is taking input, any sort of picture or light or skin or whatever. There's a lot of criticism that they were racist because they call everything racist and whatever. They would find instances where like, a facial recognition would like think of like a monkey or an ape was like a black person and stuff like that. And a lot of the response was like, oh, well, we need better training data, A, and B, these models are just like shitty and still getting better. Google has responded to these criticisms with Gemini, which is like comically bad. Like, it is what the right wing thought the left wing would make as an AI.
Mhm.
Like, they really didn't do themselves any favors, and they really are just proving everything that the Republicans have been saying all along, which is that big tech is run by super leftists, and they are injecting this bias into what they do. And it's clear with Gemini, right? Like, you ask it things like, show me a white family, and it won't do it. It'll say, like, I cannot show people of that race for blah, 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 woke DEI reason. You ask it to show a picture, show me a picture of the founding fathers, and it'll show a bunch of like black people
Mhm.
dressed up as the founding fathers.
Mhm.
You ask it like other like comical
No,
things,
no,
like
those
show,
are just the founding fathers.
yeah, yeah, and then you can ask it like, you can
could
ask
you
it.
say that the black people in the photo were wearing whiteface
Well,
You
no,
could
they were
try to
black.
say
or
that.
white wigs?
You could
So
try.
I
I
guess
Well,
don't know if I
they're.
would agree with it.
I don't know if white wigging is a
But then
thing.
it became like really comical.
It'd
with
be
some of the
hilarious
other
if that was a
things.
thing.
It
Yo,
would
man,
s-
you white wigging? Yeah, bro. I'd be wearing them white
it's a
wigs.
new term for
would
wigger.
you would ask it to show you a picture of the Pope. It would show like a black person or a woman. You ask it to show you pictures of Vikings, and it shows black people. You ask it to show you pictures of World War II German soldiers, and it shows you black men and Asian women.
So what I'm
Did
getting
anyone
is
ask it to show pictures of slaves?
Maybe those it probably will get right as black people if I had to bet.
maybe
And
the
then
default setting is just on black.
Yeah.
well,
Maybe
it
that's
wasn't just
maybe it's
black
maybe it's just a
people.
coloring issue
Did they need to turn
in the
the
code.
shading down?
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's super. Yeah, they just need to they screwed up the code part where it said include all colors.
Well, what I think is
It's-
entertaining about this is that this is not a function of like training data. It's not like they said to themselves, hey, we need to make sure that when we're training this model, we include enough pictures of non-white people. It has clearly been injected with a concrete bias of the kinds of things it's supposed to say. Even when you just ask it like text stuff, there were instances where people asked it who was worse, Elon Musk or Hitler, and it tried to create like an equivalency between the two.
Wow.
And you tried to ask it
Wow.
like, is it better or worse to live here in the U.S. or in Nazi Germany? And it would like equivocate.
Wow.
Yeah, like it wasn't just a picture thing. But yeah, and so Google, rightly so, got a lot of flack for this.
Obviously,
And
as it should. It's Google, man.
yeah, I mean, it's really ridiculous.
I think it actually. I'm going to well, it's a slight tangent.
No,
but,
no,
like,
no. Let's stay on topic.
No,
I know where you're trying to go with this.
Do you?
I know what you're about to say. Let's stay on topic.
Well, I mean, I feel like this.
Well, I don't know. I think it's kind of related, but okay. Well, I just have to say what. No, I I think as much as this is an issue about wokeness, it's also about another big problem with big tech, and that's that this was clearly not ready. It was not ready for the public.
Well, the thing is, I mean,
Mm.
so objectively, it wasn't. But Google is Google, right? Like they have 1,000,001 QA engineers. This was tested.
It was definitely
It is
tested.
impossible that this went out
was-
without testing.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
people at Google looked at this and said, yes, this is what we want.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
impossible for that to have not been the
Or
case.
somebody's really getting fired.
I
like
hope a lot of
always
people
to
get
Sunday.
fired.
Well, yeah, probably if a couple people.
Yeah, I mean it's just
Well, I
massive
mean,
screw up.
I partially agree with what you're saying, but I also think that Google was in such a hurry to compete with Chat GPT because they really did not have any product
Yep.
that would,
Yep.
like rival it, and they were kind of losing market share in lots of different ways that they just hurried this out. So yes, they have like armies of battalions of like QA testers, and like they have all this testing process in place. But it's also likely that they just rushed through it and they just wanted to launch something to compete
Yeah.
with ChatGPT as quickly as
But-
possible.
So,
Also very good
even
point.
if that was the case, right? Even if they rushed through it, which I agree, they were under a lot of pressure to push something out. Nonetheless, this was tested to some degree, and I think it's impossible to have missed this.
I
They
think
still-
so, yeah.
They still decided like it's better to push this out than wait another week.
Could you
But it's not.
imagine? Could you imagine being in that room where they're just like, yeah, so it's all great, it's all good, everything's great. We just wanted to bring one thing to your attention. Oh, what's that? Well, everything's gonna be in black. Oh, what's the problem with that? Well, let's look at some examples, and and the main person like, we'll fix it in post.
That would be really
It's like-
fascinating if how many people actually realized that this was a problem, like within the company, and were afraid to speak up.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sure that
100%.
I'm
was
sure there were a
100%.
lot.
Yeah.
Bro,
lot of
that
them, yeah.
definitely happened.
Yeah.
Joe, there were
Because-
definitely
because
people
we've known that-
inside conversations of like, you guys realize that this is a problem, right? And
Google
they're like, of course,
has-
we know. We're not going
Google
to say anything.
Google has fired employees before for
Dude,
speaking
the
up
guy
about
who
that they
the
have.
guy
being
who wrote
anti-woke.
that paper about the differences between
James
men and women.
Damore.
Damore.
Yes,
And like he said things that we all know to just be facts, and then Google was like, we don't like facts here, and then he was like, but we're Google.
So
we're
what-
where everybody goes for their facts.
So what I think is most interesting about this, and this is an anecdote, but so to me and to everybody that I think is on, kind of the libertarian or the right wing side of things, this is like ridiculous. And it's seen as
Preposterous.
it is preposterous. It's seen as comical and hilarious, obviously, but also like as emblematic of something that is wrong with our current society, right? And is wrong with the current, kind of big tech ecosystem, right? And I was speaking to a friend and her boyfriend about this, and they're very leftist, and I was showing this to them, and I was getting kind of animated. I was like, "How ridiculous is this?" And their response was like, "It's kind of funny. The main problem is that it's incorrect. I see it as something that gives wrong answers." They didn't see it as emblematic of anything. They just saw it as like, this is kind of funny.
But is it? But is it really emblematic, or is it just
I
an
think-
error?
well,
That's the thing.
I mean, I think it might be emblematic of this whole like DEI sort of push that you see in big tech. But I also
Yes.
think it's very emblematic of, just how powerful and how dangerous AI is,
Yes.
and how a little bit of bias can really, like destroy people, like individuals.
Yeah,
in
imagine if it was
ways-
imagine this on like a much grander scale
Yeah.
in a much different context. It's
or,
terrifying.
or imagine if it was much more subtle. Like, let's say, they didn't actually always spit out incorrect
Well,
information.
they probably are. This is they released it for like a day,
Yeah.
and people noticed this problem. So that what are the more subtle ways they have messed with it?
That's a
it
really
can
good
go.
point.
It can go in both ways.
If
Right? I mean,
they-
if you look at
This
Uber,
is to me it's one of a glaring problem here is it's very clear that the engineers have messed with it. What the purpose for that is debatable, and how that that's like a side topic. Like they have messed with it. They have messed with it, and it is going to control us in our future. I don't know.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
I'm blanking
So
out
the
on
point is that here's another thing is like we don't really know. This is why the people on the right are being like, oh, you see that like Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that scene where he goes and he points at the TV. Oh, there it is. That thing. That's what Republicans are basically doing on this whole scenario, because it does go to say who's really behind actually creating this stuff, and how can we trust that people are doing it in good faith and in a way that's going to be fair, impartial, just on facts. This is a proof case in point of you can't really. I am not one for oversight in any way, but in some cases you kind of want to be like, is anybody watching what is actually going on, and then how do we trust the people who are watching, the people who are making the thing? There's just so many levels of this, because if you, as you rightly said, foreign guy, if things aren't done in the right way, it could have massive implications in many different ways. Imagine if you created an AI program, and then all of a sudden you were like, and the code was written there, and it went after certain types of people's information, but not others types of people's information, for example. And that happened to be, let's say, racially biased in a certain way. Whichever way it goes, whichever way, it doesn't matter. But imagine that, right? How like how ridiculously harmful that would be for countries, for society, and it's this is the type of programs that people can write and that they are writing.
Yeah.
So
And
how much
Well,
oversight are we
yeah,
going to
and
allow?
AI is not really just limited to your Chat GPTs, right? Like think about Uber's algorithm. There was a news article about how Uber was trying to deprioritize dangerous neighborhoods,
Right,
right?
right.
And just think about the implications of just that issue right there.
Yeah, imagine
And
if you somehow found yourself in a quote unquote dangerous neighborhood
yeah,
by happenstance and accident. I mean, it's happened to me once when I was in a certain area here in the city where we live, and um, it was super late at night, and it was not a good neighborhood, and I started freaking out because I left the place where I was at, and it was super late, and I knew it was not a good neighborhood, and I was scared I was not going to be able to get an Uber, and it took me a very long time to get an Uber. And oh, may I add that I was a white person in a not good neighborhood wearing a suit at like 2, 3 in the morning. It was not exactly the
yeah.
and a nice suit, not like you know, not like a suit where I was swimming in it, right? And you're like, this guy's just used vacuum cleaner
So that's
salesman,
that's like a good
you
example
know?
of how AI bias can even get you killed.
Right,
Like
exactly.
the consequences are pretty crazy if you think about it.
It's like, oh, there's no cars available, but there are actually cars available. But the algorithm and AI is saying, well, that's a bad neighborhood. We're not going to risk drivers' lives or anything. So now you're just like, you have to run. I'll tell you, it will get people learning how to read maps real quick. Again, people learn how to read maps and streets, and maybe we'll get all healthier because maybe people, if some large people get in the wrong neighborhoods, they have to run to the right place to get an Uber. Maybe maybe there's some benefits of that, but overall, it sounds pretty terrible in my opinion.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
but it's definitely uh something that's again I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are around because of this and what happened with this. Again, I'm generally not a fan of oversight by any means, particularly around government, but there's a big push around having, big tech having a lot more oversight, whereas now it's kind of like the Wild Wild West still. But is that going to be coming to an end when there's more examples of this? And now which side wants more oversight, which is also interesting, right? Because normally it would be the Democratic side would say, "Oh no, we need oversight. We need government to come in here and check out what's going on and stuff." And the Republicans would be like, "No, no, free markets, keep it out." But now it's almost like it's
Well,
reversed.
there's another question there. How do
Hmm.
you? So let's say the government decides to regulate the space. How do they even regulate
Right?
it?
How do you even regulate something
Yeah,
that moves so quickly as well? Like
yeah.
as soon as they regulate one thing, it's old.
And how do you regulate like an algorithm?
Right.
What are you
You
going to do
can't.
there? Like how are you going to
So
measure the regulation there?
So I think that a central piece of this is so big tech broadly wants two hypocritical things. On one hand, they want to be regulated as a platform, an unbiased platform. And there's certain regulations that say that if you are an unbiased platform, you are a message board, basically,
mm,
then you can't be held liable for anything that is said on your platform, and you cannot be held liable for what your platform is used for. Hence, you see like literal terrorists using Twitter to communicate. You see like the Ayatollah of Iran threatening death to everybody
that was a whole thing
on
where they're
Twitter,
like, you'll take off Trump, but you'll
and that was
leave ISIS.
hilarious.
That I mean, yeah, objectively hilarious,
It was
yes,
hilarious.
but because it's just like these are
Yeah,
known actual people who do harm to others,
but
and
so
and they're still on there. You remember when who's that comedian who the redhead lady? I can't remember her name now, and she put up the picture of Trump's head, severed head.
oh,
Remember? I can't
I
remember her
don't. I
name.
know you're
Kathy
whatever.
Griffin?
Kathy
Kathy
Griffin.
Griffin.
Thank you,
Yeah,
foreign guy. It's amazing that foreign guy knows that. To be honest, is Kathy Griffin popular in your land?
No, no, she's not at all.
No, she's not popular at all. That's a silly question I asked. It would actually be interesting though if she was like really popular in some like place nobody would ever
yeah.
think she'd be popular in. But
Yeah.
yeah, like same thing. Like she really, I don't know if maybe she got deplatformed or not, but like that kind of stuff would be like fine, it
Yeah.
would stay, but then other people were getting really deplatformed.
Right. Anyways, so they want to be regulated in a way that they are not liable for these things, but at the same time, they want the freedom to like make these, frankly, very biased editorial choices.
Right.
Right. So the Republican attitude is like, if you want to be regulated in this way, then you need to have true free speech. And the Democrats' opinion is like, oh, they have free speech, but they don't want fake news and whatever on there. And
So
the
then
Repu-
is this Gemini thing a tenet of free speech? It's like, yeah, the founding fathers were black.
I mean, it's Google's prerogative to put up. The way I see this is, it's Google's prerogative to make whatever the fuck AI they want, and it's our prerogative to make fun of it because it's like fucking ridiculous and not pay for it, right?
Right.
And the
right.
free market will solve this problem. There
That's
will
right.
be other AIs that don't do this. Chat GPT, by the way, for its many flaws, is not like this.
True.
I get
Well, it
pissed
was. There were claims that it was, but
There
I
were
think
claims
it's
that
been
it was,
fixed.
but it's not as bad as this.
It's not as bad as that.
It
no,
does.
no.
It is like a
But
bit
there was
biased, but it's not like
plenty
this.
of stories that I saw.
Well,
But
of
it's
it
not like
being
this.
biased.
I don't fully agree that the free market can just solve this on its own. Yeah, obviously, if the AI is so openly foolish like Gemini was, then yes, people can then react and they're gonna protest, and obviously they're not gonna use it. But if it's more subtle, right, like what Facebook sometimes does in terms of like showing certain things on its newsfeed, things like that, they're not easy for large groups of people to just identify. That's where you have a requirement for some form of regulation to like make sure that those kinds of things are also well regulated.
So what I actually think is that AI, or at least this type of chatbot, is significantly easier to evaluate and not regulate, but evaluate than like a Facebook newsfeed. It's really hard to go on Facebook and say, oh, conservative, articles and posts and whatever are not as is coming up as much, right? But for something like a chatbot that you can access programmatically, you can evaluate it.
Yeah,
And
you can actively
you
interact.
can
with it.
actively interact with it.
Yep.
You can
And
ask it
I think that there
questions.
will be businesses that pop up whose sole purpose is to evaluate chatbots. It'll be like a
Yelp for chatbots.
So what do you do
Yeah.
about the news feeds though? Those are also very, they could be very problematic if they're not if the bias is not removed the right way.
So I don't know what to do about news feeds, but for something like this that can be programmatically examined, I think the answer is obvious. Like, you can just evaluate. There can be standardized tests of these things.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I'm just saying the whole idea that the free market will just solve this problem on its own might not be, in my view, it's probably not.
There's no
accurate.
market for a counter to YouTube, and with all the YouTube is designed to keep you watching forever.
Yeah.
And
Keep
they-
watching,
What's
everybody.
And you
interesting about
whatever you're watching, if you start watching anything political, they've come back and made some adjustments to it, but for a while it was, you watch anything political, then your news feed is going to be flooded with further and further down a rabbit hole to the extremes. Either end of the extremes, it puts you there very quickly.
so
Exactly.
what's interesting about the let's say, call it the market for news feeds, where you consume your news, is that the news feeds that you pay a non-trivial amount of money for are actually the most unbiased. So who is consistently paying for news beyond it? I mean, New York Times you can pay for, it's biased, but like, you don't pay very much, right? But people, traders and financial professionals that pay for Bloomberg, that pay for Reuters feeds, that kind of thing, are extremely unbiased.
Hmm.
The most unbiased news source you will find is Reuters. It is pure fact-based reporting, and people pay good money
There
for
have been
it.
some articles I've seen from Reuters where I'm like,
Nothing's perfect, but
"What you doing, Reuters?"
nothing's
Like
perfect, but
I've
it's
had
pretty good.
on the whole, I would say most of the time I see anything from Reuters, it's objectively middle of the road. And there are things that are more middle of the road than like I
think
get
that's
I get The Economist. The Economist is mostly
that's a
middle of the road still.
side topic.
But
topic.
the whole point is about where is the line for AI as well, comparative to where other sources of information that you can get are coming from. So like how much stuff do we have that's middle of the road versus the stuff that's on the extremes, and where is the information inputs coming from for these AI bots where they're which they're basically learning from, and how is that determining in the algorithm what they spit out to people when they ask it questions? Because we unfortunately live in a society where there's dummies and they look at this stuff and then they'll just take this stuff as fact, and they will, because we live in a society where we rely too heavily on easy things we can pull information from to get quick decisions and things, because we don't have the capacity to really research and linger on topics. It actually is a skill now to do research, because most people don't have the time, most people don't have the inclination really
That's
to
not a
want to
new
put the
thing.
time
Yeah.
into it.
I mean, we're just looking for the small hits
we
of
actually-
dopamine
It's all
constantly.
it's definitely a much bigger thing today than it was back in the old day, for sure. Like, there was a lot I wouldn't say you're probably correct. I would say you're probably correct, Joe, if I'm understanding you, that the majority of people were not going to be like the Isaac Newtons of the old, right? Like, they weren't going to whatever. But there was a lot more, like back in the old times, there was things like journeymaning. You would be an apprentice. There were different levels of
I really don't know what you're
learning
talking about
things.
now.
Okay, well, I'm trying to explain that people today, as foreign guy said, want the quick dopamine hits of stuff. So you
Yes.
go, you get your information, you kind of leave. There's no examination of anything, right?
Yeah.
In older times, whether we're talking about early 1900s, 1800s, 1700s, and farther back in time, I would argue more people, a vast majority of people probably didn't do this, but a much larger portion of people than today probably spent time actually learning and taking time and dedicating time to learning things and investigating and things like that, more so than today.
I think most people couldn't read back then.
Well, there's also that, for sure. There's a lot of
I mean,
illiteracy.
Yeah,
People are way more
disagree with
literate
I
today.
disagree with that statement.
That's what.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well,
Yeah, but
good
I
for
mean,
you
think,
then,
I
dude.
think I think it is an established fact though that our attention spans have been going down
Attention,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
significantly.
exactly.
I know
So
mine
once that
has.
happens, you're obviously not going to have. The
But
patience
I
to-
don't think
That's
it's
my
that people.
point.
It's not. Yes, it's not that people are not doing enough research. It's that people are bombarded with too much information.
No. Everybody's like, everybody's research is, I watch a YouTube video. Like,
And
that's
then,
what most
and then
people's
they think
research
that,
is.
and they're bombarded with information, and then they think they know more than they do because of the amount of information they've been bombarded with. Whereas people in the past just accepted that they don't really know that much. They accept that their information is heavily limited. Whereas people today who are constantly bombarded with information think of themselves as being very intelligent and researched. They think of themselves as being very educated when in reality they have not even like surface level. I mean, you're talking about like snowflakes on an iceberg.
It's interesting how, to your point, it's interesting how, like, ignorance has changed. Like, what your argument is, which is very true. Most people were illiterate, so they were ignorant in the fact that people just had less access to information based on where they would live. Like, if let's just take like 1700s for a minute. Unless if you lived out in the fucking boonies, like, it would take you a long time to get information to learn something new. But what I'm saying is, you might dedicate your time to a craft or a skill or something in a lot more dedicated and disciplined way than like today.
If you were rich.
No, not if you were rich. You could
No, if
you
you're-
could go out and cut a tree, Joe, and start learning how to make chairs. You didn't have to be rich to go and chop down
Well,
some
yeah,
fucking trees.
But most people were just working on the farm all day long.
Some people, yeah, but even that's a lot more of a dedicated skill
Yeah,
than
yeah.
going on YouTube and be like, I learned that skim milk makes you fat. It's like,
No,
what?
it takes-
what study is that? So yeah. Anyway,
It takes a lot of time and effort to be educated and to do your own research. It takes a tremendous amount of time, and people don't. I think it's also problematic that we criticize each other for not taking the time to do this kind of thing and acting like there's some kind of flaw with you. People talk about this like there's a flaw with you. If you're not doing your own research, you're flawed. If you're not going out and researching everything that you hear about in the news, and if you're not learning everything you can, every single detail about whatever political candidate, then you're not not the citizen that you should be. I think this is flawed thinking, because the reality is very, very few people actually have the time, the freedom, and the free time to actually dedicate that amount of resources, their time and energy, to researching these things in the ways that we talk about it. So people who are saying that, they're doing a very most of those people are looking at a very narrow path, and they're being very underinformed, and or getting a biased pick. But then the problem is when they well, there's a lot of problems on this, but one thing I'm pointing out in particular, this kind of a pet peeve of mine, when they place that and say that other people are problematic because they're not taking any amount of time or a similar amount of time, or really people are just saying that because they're like, you don't agree with me, and instead of saying I don't like you or I'm upset at you because you don't agree with me, they're rephrasing it as you're not doing enough research, you're not doing your due diligence as a citizen, and that's really just not even possible.
But I
In
think
fact,
it's
the whole
what
reason that democracy came into existence in the first place, just as an example point to all this, democracy first originated in Greece, and the only reason it was even possible is because those people had slaves. Slavery made democracy possible because the people who the only people who could vote were landowners who also happened to own slaves who could actually do all the work. So they had a lot of free time. They could spend that time to think about these outside political matters. In the case today,
Right.
even whether it's couple hundred years ago, or whether it's today right now, most people are working their ass off all day long and don't have the time to dig into these things.
What
And
kind
they
of an
shouldn't be
argument are
criticized.
you making here, Joe?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
I don't
that's
want to say the joke, but
yeah.
are you making an argument for slavery right now? Is that what you're trying to say?
It's an
But
We
I
would
interesting.
free
think
up our time?
yeah.
I'd vote for
I think we
slavery
should
if
go
I
to the
could
next
have
Oh,
it
look
topic.
at this
for
But
white
everybody.
guy.
just a quick point here to what
It's an
Joe was saying
interesting.
though.
It's
Why
interesting
is it?
Oh, it is
reality.
interesting history, though.
We can't. This is the whole point of this discussion, right? We're not denying
s-
the facts, the realities of things. The Gemini is looking the other way, but we want to look at reality and call things what they are.
Mm.
Well, yeah, maybe. But my point is just simply, why is it bad to like have a higher standard, right? If you're voting for somebody in an election, for society to like pressure you to like do your research first before you go out and vote, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's a higher standard. If you keep enforcing
I
that.
agree. I agree with foreign guy, even though he can't vote here. But what I'm saying, but it's as I agree with you that yes, and I've made this point many times that which is why we do this show is because we want to be more informed and hopefully help others be more informed because it is very difficult to do this amount of research and dedicate the time. 100%. We all have. But you know what I've also learned as I've kind of gone through and just kind of like, I mean, I do this and I do a bunch of things for this show and I do some other fun things, whatever. There's also a lot of people out there, Joe, who really waste their time. They have the time to actually devote to going to a candidate's website or learning about a thing or reading something, right? There is an abundance of time that you could facilitate towards doing other things. People just choose not to. Now, why they may choose not to has a whole host of variety of different reasons. Some people may have a lot of kids and are super busy and are just too tired. I think a lot of it comes down to probably being just tired. Like you might like there are times even myself, I get done with my workday and I want to research something. I want to read the paper or the article about a topic I care about, and at some point I'm just like I am just too tired. I have the time where I could do it, but I'm just physically drained from my workday or whatever it is, and so I choose to just relax because I need my body to reset, my mind to reset before I could go and
And
read
so,
that thing or
wouldn't it
look
be
into that.
so much better if you just have your AI do it for you?
No, that's also the
AI
point.
is the
No.
modern slavery.
Oh, that's an interesting.
In
That's an
what
interesting. Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
Like
You
the
need to
AI is the
expand on
slave?
that.
Oh, geez, I was trying to tie it back to to come full circle here to move on, but like, okay, because what is AI
That
not
was a
I
slave?
love how
that was
he was surprised he made an interesting
yeah,
point.
yeah, that was like a super interesting, super deep point. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
just say that and you can't just move on
He's
from
like, "Oh
that.
no, I just meant that to be a button." This,
Because that got all of us thinking right now.
yeah.
Is that? I thought that was apparent. I mean,
No.
when I mean, I was what I was sort of alluding to in the past when
Well, because I agree with you
A,
to a degree. Yeah.
AI is modern slavery, or will be theoretically in that sense. It's you can create machines to do work for you. You will do work that you tell it to do.
I mean, I don't know if that's modern
wait.
slavery any more than like just having any computer that we've had for many years is modern slavery.
I misunderstood his point, Discount Jamie. I thought he was saying that like human beings would be de-enslaved due to AI, and I think what you're saying is modern slavery is like AI robots doing the work so we can focus on other things. Is like
Yeah,
them
that's what
being
I
the
thought.
slaves.
I thought you were saying
It's
basically
one
AI is
one or the
gonna
other. It's
free
whoever.
Well, yeah, it
whoever-
could be one of the
It's
other.
gonna it's gonna end up being one or the other. It's
Well,
not
that's like that's basically the whole
yeah.
point of like Blade Runner, isn't it? Basically, the replicants are like basically slaves that are run by regular
I
humans to
think
do
that actually
jobs and things, right?
brings it back to the point of so you should probably figure out the right
It is.
regulation to make sure that we actually benefit from AI, right? To the point where we're actually freed from all of
Yeah, of
these.
course. This is the number one. I believe this is the number one political discussion. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show. Yeah, this is the.
It
To
should
me,
be, but
it's
it's
not even
not.
close. It's not close. This is the number one political topic that every
Well, it isn't.
politician should be. It should be.
It
This,
should-
this is
right,
the
there's a
this is the
difference.
most important. This is the most important subject affecting our lives and our future.
One day, this topic might be the most important topic for politicians to be discussing and how we're going to deal with policy around this. But today it is not.
And-
Today it is still in its infancy, where we have issues with Gemini
And for the record,
putting everything as
I-
basically in like a blackface to a degree. Yeah, I mean,
but
basically
for
a
the
different,
record,
a different kind form of it, but basically.
yeah, just for the record, I don't. I think that it is good that Google or OpenAI or any of the other researchers have meddled with this to some degree, to the point that they are sort of when what's his name?
Discount Jamie.
Discount Jamie.
When
Or
Discount
Walmart
Jamie
Jamie.
was surprised by some people's lackluster reaction. I mean, it's highly problematic, but also it's to just leave it alone. I think is also problematic, and that's something that people, to his point, the open market has reacted to in the past. People have released uh, released AI tools that have then in the public been shown to be problematic, and there's been adverse reactions to that, and people make adjustments accordingly. In the case of Google, they adjusted too far, but I don't think that means I don't think the answer is not making any adjustments at all. It's finding somewhere in the middle, and that's where I see I think what I said already, that the biggest issue for me is uh, that it's being released too soon without being adequately tested. The testing that they did,
that's what-
obviously they did testing.
That's what foreign guy said.
The testing that they did was obviously insufficient, and is there a case where it can be sufficient? No, it's not
Or
possible.
was
It's not
it?
possible.
Or
to be.
was
but
it?
it's-
Was it? Well, this is the argument that Discount Jamie also is saying, that Republicans and conservatives are saying. Is it really a case of poor testing, or is this a clear sign of bias in tech companies that is adversely affecting people of the other side? That is the argument.
It
And
is
then
a case.
Who's actually programming these things? Who's overseeing the programmers? How can we trust anybody in these tech companies to do things in an impartial way that will not have adverse effects on our daily lives and how policy and things are made in the future because of
100%.
mistakes like this?
100%, you cannot trust the people to make.
Goddamn right you can't.
100%.
I think that's the whole point.
And yes, this is definitively proven, and this example definitively proves it. Yes, you cannot trust. We cannot trust Google.
Agreed.
Okay, so
At
now,
all,
so then
period.
it's like,
At
well, what do
all.
you do about it?
You cannot trust Google. Period.
What do you do? So what's the solution then? You cannot trust these people. That's what we've come to that conclusion now. And so then the question is, what do you do about it?
DuckDuckGo is for anyone who doesn't know, not a sponsor.
Not currently a sponsor
yet,
but we welcome it.
I
think. Wait, where are we going with this? Do we want them as a
Of
sponsor?
course we do.
Yeah,
We do? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we want you. Yeah.
DuckDuckGo is a search engine that works in the same way that Google did, but they do not track your data. They do not follow.
Oh yeah,
you
no,
around
we're
the
definitely
internet.
fans of that. Yeah. But please sponsor us.
DuckDuckGo. Yeah.
Currently taking sponsor applications as we speak.
Google used to have the motto. Their slogan Was a motto slogan? No, it was like the company message.
A slogan is a motto.
Yeah, but
it's
I think
basically
it was
it's
more.
one and
It
the
was
same.
their number one message that they gave to all employees was "Don't be evil," and then they got rid of it.
Well, to them, this is not being
That's
evil.
pretty
right?
evil to get rid of your slogan that
That's-
says "Don't be evil." You
To
just
them,
I
this
imagine
is
just a guy
them
with
not
a mustache like you had one time, just going. He's got like a cane and a monocle. Maybe just the Monopoly guy. And he's just there. We've taken out the phrase. Let them be evil now.
I think their official reasoning was they thought it was no longer necessary. But
which is exactly what an evil organization would say. Oh, this isn't necessary anymore. Well, why isn't it necessary?
it's also that they made that when the founders, I can't think of Larry Page and
Sergey Brin.
yeah, back when they were grad students at Stanford, when they first established Google,
did they ask Gemini to show a picture of them, and did they?
So
they
I was
come back
actually
as
playing
black?
around with Gemini just now, and
Oh.
it seems to be mostly fixed, which is funny because when all of this started to come out, they didn't pull it back and fix it immediately. I read things that said they were doing that, but then I went on, and like days afterwards, I was still able to make it say ridiculous things. So, but now it appears from my like 5 minutes of doing this to be fixed.
Well, that seems to be the thing everybody likes to do with anything that's AI based, which is to ask it ridiculous things and see what it'll pop out with. Because it is difficult to program for the depravity that is the human mind at some points.
I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, they're not. It's weird to say that they are quote unquote programming this. I mean, they are in a literal sense, but it's a extremely complicated, neural net model.
True.
So it's actually, this is the other thing that I thought was funny about this. It must have been challenging for them to make the AI behave this way. Like, this isn't something that happens by accident.
I think that is also. I think you're hitting on a really key point as well. I think a lot of the motivations of tech workers is simply to do something that's challenging.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, people
Of
love
course.
working on challenging things. I
Why
think
wouldn't
that,
Yeah, but like literally, it's like somebody gives them.
You think they created their own problem on purpose?
No, but I know
We're
how
gonna make this really
tech workers-
woke and racist, but in the other way, so we have to fix it because we need something to do for 5 more months so we can get paid. I mean, that'd be a hell of a sinister thing to do. But I could see it happening.
No,
I
but
could see it happening.
This
We
has
need
been,
Google to keep us. We're gonna get fired. We need a reason to be here.
This
How many programs do they have? Like ridiculous amounts of programmers.
Well,
They
that's
do
not
nothing
where
but
their
program
bloat
all day.
is. Their bloat is not from the actual engineering staff. Their bloat is from like middle managers on middle managers on middle managers.
Oh my
coupled with
God,
all
the
of their DEI
endless,
bullshit.
yeah, the endless middle managing. It's like the film Office Space, where you have 7 bosses telling you to fill out your TPS reports. Hey, hey there, Peter. Did you happen to get that memo about the cover sheets on our TPS reports?
And I don't.
But now it's, hey, did you see the problem where everything's being made black on the Gemini thing? Yeah, I did see that, Steve. I'm gonna be working on that.
Yeah.
Yes, Janet. I saw it. Thank you.
You have to think about the incentives that a lot of
I don't
engineers at
know.
like massive firms have in order to move up, right? The way you move up as an engineer at a Google or a Facebook or a Netflix or what have you, right? It's not to be the best engineer you can be, although obviously that is extremely helpful. No, it is rather.
I thought that was a slogan for the army.
Sort of. So
all that you can be. Google.
Rather, it is to politic your way up by saying the right things and signaling the right beliefs, coupled with trying to hire as many people under you as possible so that you can look important.
Correct.
And eventually, you get so far away from the code that your legitimacy is derived not from your skill as an engineer, but rather by the system that exists around you and your place within it, right?
It's a weird MLM.
So when you manage people that manage people, you're not touching the code. In fact, you probably haven't in a long enough time that it will be difficult for you to do so. So you're only valuable because you exist in the place that you exist. You don't really do anything, right? And so because of that, they are incentivized to maintain the structures that support them, hence DEI bullshit.
In all fairness, that is the ultimate life. To be a middle manager that does nothing, getting paid gobs of money to do nothing.
It looks great.
Yeah, and then being able to say that you're important.
That's
everybody's dream. Really, I
Is
get paid.
this how Google actually? I don't know anyone who.
Dude, it's how a lot of big tech is, honestly.
I know how, but these companies have been fighting that. The successful companies are the ones over the last 20 years, the ones who have been able to fight that the longest.
Yeah, I mean, you look at
Yeah.
Twitter/X, right? And when Elon took over and axed, like, I don't even remember what percentage of the staff.
It was a low.
Twitter wasn't a particularly well-run company to begin with.
Well, it suffered from a lot of the same problems as the other mega
Yeah,
tech
yeah.
companies, right? Which was that they had a ton of bloat. So Elon came in
Yeah.
and he axed a ton of people, and there was this huge backlash from, outsiders and even people inside of Twitter saying, "Oh, like they're never going to be able to function like without this department and that department and this guy and that guy." And you know what? It's fine. Literally nothing changed. I mean, something changed, but nothing changed for the worse. Nothing changed in the sense of like it got degraded from a technical sense. Like, and I think that this is true for Meta, it's true for Google, it's true for a lot of these businesses, tech and otherwise. They can axe a huge percentage of their staff and basically not notice.
All right, so the next interesting topic that we needed to discuss was is everybody familiar with the YouTube show Hot Wings, Hot Ones? I think it is.
Why don't you give a quick overview?
Okay, so for those watching that are not familiar,
Let's get the
there's
name right first.
it's a Hot Ones.
I don't know.
I think I keep forgetting. Discount Jamie, if you can.
It is Hot Ones.
Hot Ones. Okay, that's what I thought. So so there's a show on YouTube. If you don't want to watch us, you can watch this, I suppose. But it's this guy, Sean Evans. He he is the host of the show, and basically the general premise of the show is they have celebrities on. They eat a ranking of hot sauces from mild to ridiculously hot, and he interviews these celebrities from everybody in sports, movies, TV, fashion, music, whoever is famous. He has them on. They eat hot wings, and his questions, just like the wings, get spicier and hotter as they progress up the of the scale of hotness, which is what is it? The Scoville. Yeah, the Scoville
Really-
Hot
hotness.
ones.
Yeah,
I really
So-
want hot wings right now.
it does make me want to have wings.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, it's quite delectable. I actually did the challenge with all my friends that I do fantasy football with, and it was there was one that I chose not to do. Everybody who's seen the show would know what that one is. It's called The Bomb. It's from Kansas City, and it is apparently disgusting. And I definitely pussied out and did not do that one because I wanted to have my taste buds for the rest of the day. But yeah. So anyway, the major story here, which I found very interesting. I heard about this. So Sean Evans, who's the host, he's become very, very, popular and famous because the show's done quite well. He ended up dating. I guess he's dated, and he meant to keep it secret, but it came out as not a secret anymore because he took his corn star girlfriend at the time to the Super Bowl. Apparently, she is a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, so he took her to the Super Bowl. I believe her name was. Just count Jamie. Can you check? I think it was Melissa Stratton or something like this. Melissa Stratton.
Melissa Stratton, yeah.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, so
I'm
he
gonna do my own research.
yeah, do your own research, Joe. Please let us know. So he takes Melissa Stratton to the Chiefs game. Now it was supposed to be kept secret, but I mean I don't know how you keep this secret when you
Yeah, that
go
seems
to the
kinda
Super
silly.
Bowl with this lady. Anyway, Sean Evans starts getting a bunch of flack online from like the red pill community and all these being there, and they're all like, "Oh, I can't believe you'd be dating a corn star. That's ridiculous." Blah, blah, blah. So he ended up dumping her on Valentine's Day right after the Super Bowl, and it's blown up as a whole story in the dating community. People are going after Sean Evans, being like, you clearly liked her before, and now all of a sudden you're going to dump her. What's the deal? And I just found it so interesting because and I've heard a lot of interesting commentary about this topic as well. What I find interesting about it is, it's almost it's clearly a tale of a guy who was like probably never really that popular, never really got with like the super hot chick, whatever, and now he's found himself in a position where he can actually score with a girl like that, and he got all hot and heavy about it. He's like, "Oh man, this girl's so hot and blah, 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 and I'm gonna be with this chick, and that's exciting." da da da. And then as soon as the reality set in of what was going on, he was like, "Oh no, I've made a terrible mistake," and he's just like cut and run as fast as possible. Um, and my whole thing, everybody's giving him slack for everything, and my whole thing is like, let him do what he wants. Like,
Yeah, like who cares?
like
What does it matter?
honestly, generally, well, a lot of people care because they say a lot of people from the Red Pill community were giving him stuff. But now people on the other side are being like, well, why would you cut it off? Like, why now? Like, why on Valentine's Day? Like, if you were enjoying yourself, why wouldn't you just keep enjoying yourself? You clearly had no issues with it before, but now all of a sudden it became public. Now all of a sudden you're worried about it. What's the deal, yo? Is basically what are the two counter arguments. And so I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on
I
this.
think that there are many valid reasons to not date a corn star. Um, I mean, on some sense, it's like, oh, it's like their job. Like, why do you care? Like, it's disconnected and blah blah blah. And like, fine. Like, I understand on a logical level that argument, but I think that most guys are just not going to feel that, A, for the obvious reasons, and then B, because it's a bad look. It's like kind of embarrassing. Like, not only are you gonna get a lot of shit from your friends, which kind of doesn't matter because they're your friends, but like you go around and people look at you, and especially someone like this who's a public figure.
dating the
Like,
star.
Hot Ones,
Ew.
I've never watched Hot Ones, but my understanding is that it is broadly like a family friendly type of show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like good for everybody,
He
right?
does have an image to kind of
He has an
protect.
image to protect,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he
Yeah.
didn't think about that when he was in
Well, I
private.
think if he was just like having fun in private and messing around, that's very different than and more acceptable, frankly, for someone in his position than to be publicly dating a corn star.
Like
Right.
Trump.
Well, Trump,
Listen, hey, foreign guy,
Trump did
relax.
not date a corn star. Trump,
I'm not saying the dating part. I'm saying privately doing your own thing without
yeah,
actually
yeah,
dating
yeah.
the
Exactly
porn
like
star.
Trump.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Oh, okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So I guess my take is actually similar to Discount Jamie's. Well, first of all, I don't know what exactly happened. I don't even know if they truly broke it off or they're just doing it so that they
No,
can.
it's done. It's done.
Well, they might be saying that
To our
for the
knowledge.
public. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for the
To our
public,
knowledge,
sure.
we think it's done, but they might still be doing things.
He might be still sending the "Hey you up" text messages.
Yeah,
at
anything
2 in
is
the morning.
possible. Anything is possible. But my personal preference is I would probably not want to date a corn star or an OnlyFans star, any of these kinds of women. But everybody is free to do what they want. So if he wants to date a porn star, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If he's okay with what she's doing and if he's like fine with all of that, then that's completely fine. But then again, it's a free market, right? If his audience is not happy with those actions that he's doing, then they have a right not to watch his shows. So he has to make a decision on what's more important for him.
Yeah, is this really just a business decision at the end of the day?
It might be.
It might be just a business decision. Like I don't, it is a family friendly show. He's kind of a funny, goofy guy, and he might just be like, hey, I just don't want the flack that's coming with this.
He doesn't
I'm
want.
kind of this. He's kind of he looks kind of like a guy who likes to be
Maybe
not
it's
really in
too
the spotlight.
spicy for him.
Oh,
And he can't take the heat.
Pun.
I like
Look
that.
at you,
I like
Discount
that.
Jamie. Look at you making those puns. I love it. But yeah, I think that's kind of it. Discount Jamie, would you date an OF and or corn star person?
No. I mean, not like no. I mean, like this is kind of clear. I mean, like if I matched on Tinder with an OnlyFans girl, I would totally go hang out with her and hook up with her and do whatever. But I would definitely not like turn it into a thing.
You'd be like, thanks very much. Your services were great.
No, like I would totally like hang out with her and like
Yeah.
introduce
But
her to my
in
friends
public?
and like
But in
blah
public.
blah blah. Yeah, sure, in public. But I would
Interesting.
never like try to like make a serious thing with her.
It's very similar. This is like very similar. Remember when Jimmy G was quarterback of the 49ers? He had the same thing. He was seen out with like a corn star or whatever, and it was like, oh my God, Jimmy G. And you're like, it's Jimmy G. Look at the man. He's beautiful. Like I'm sure that's not the first corn star he had been with, in all fairness. And he lived in San Francisco. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. Maybe he needs to make sure and check under the hood a little bit, make sure they're as advertised, but in San Francisco. But other than that, like, who really cares at that point, right? But I think it's a bit of the same. Like Jimmy G stopped doing that as well, or they might still be doing it, right? But it's way more under the table for sure now. There's a lot more talking about regulations in the last topic, regulating to ensure things are kept above board, if you will. But what I'm really curious about is this guy over here. You have been doing some really intense research, talking about people who were doing. Do you like what you
What?
saw there, or what? What's going on with you?
Joe, who is your favorite
Look at
porn
his
star?
sheepish face. Would you date an OF corn star? Would you date this girl? Apparently, he's already hot and bothered about it now. So
And she's available now.
She is available.
You should slide in her DMs, Joe.
Nah, I'm good.
Not your type, I would imagine, eh?
She's not.
Nah,
Nah, G, nah. No, she's not your type for sure.
no.
No. But you spent a lot of time looking that up. You spent a lot
But
of time.
I was trying to. I mean, I don't. We're talking about other people's business. Like, we're
Well,
yeah.
when you're a public figure, Joe, people get into their business.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, that comes with the territory. If you don't want to be a public figure, you know, I mean, there was a whole industry just
I don't
around.
care.
There's a whole. I mean, TMZ's whole entire purpose is around knowing what people are doing, and like I normally don't care, but it's not about their personal business. It's more around the general idea of what is the stigma around this? Can't people just let people be? And how is that how is this impacting the dating market? These types of people. What is the stigma?
There-
Why is there a stigma? There's interesting concepts around this. Whether I understand you may not care about these two people individually specifically, but there are broader concepts around
So are
this
you
topic.
are you trying to like pinpoint the fact? Are you saying that the fans of the show like kind of overstepped in criticizing this guy, or are you saying that it was wrong for this guy to break it off with this?
My point is, but you can do whatever the hell you want. I think it's a business decision. I think he was having fun. Like I said, I think he's like, oh man, I got with this my favorite corn star. This is amazing. I can pull this kind of tail now. Wow. And then he went a little too much. Tried to be who he is, a nice guy. Oh, I'll take her to the Chiefs game. And then all of a sudden, some people are like, oh, Melissa, what's up? Oh, Melissa, photo. And then people see him, and he's like, oh, all right, I need to end this. I got a show to protect. This is what's keeping me in the game. I can't lose this. I gotta end things.
So
He had his fun, and that's it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
I
yeah.
Almost positive.
I disagree with that a bit.
Oh,
So, a little bit.
scandalous.
Yeah, it is scandalous indeed. Not as scandalous as this, but still
Not as scandalous as Joe taking 2 hours looking up this girl and then being like, nah, G.
Yeah. So I don't think that this was
I was gonna
case-
say more. You guys kept interrupting me.
Well, you gotta get in there, man. Just like he got in there. You know
I
what I'm
don't
saying?
think this was a case of
got out.
like, oh my god, he's like so starstruck that he can date someone like very pretty. Although I don't know, you know,
Have you seen him?
well,
He's not.
okay,
He's not ugly, but
It's
like,
not-
fine.
no, he's
but
not-
He's like amazing. He's like
yes,
a
I've been agreeing,
non-trivial
yeah.
celebrity at this point. Like he
yeah,
has
he's,
had
he's
access
YouTube famous. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
he's
having
a
fun.
non-trivial. Speaking of
He
people
was just-
interrupting all the time.
I still haven't got. I haven't. Yeah, whatever.
Anyways, he is
Oh
a
my God.
non-trivial celebrity. He has had access to this caliber of puss for a long time now. This should not be shocking to him.
You think this is not the first one he's been with?
I do not. I think that he wanted to bring her to the Chiefs game because he thought it would be fun. I think he just thought it would be fun. I don't think he was trying to show anything.
Yeah.
He just thought it would be fun.
I think so.
But the thing
I
that
think you're right.
confuses me is that, like, how could he not think this would happen?
That is a great point.
That's my.
How do you go to the Chiefs game and not
He
know
is a
that
they are both public figures?
basically they're both online to a degree?
Yeah.
They're both online. Their photos will be taken at a Super Bowl.
It seems like he was really just winging this performance.
You know why this also happened? Yeah. Oh. Pun. Discount Jamie with the puns tonight.
I thought it was
Uh,
one, not hundred.
It is hot one, so whatever.
Do you think this is you think that it's also blown up because it's another case of like, oh, I can't believe this guy pulled this tail kind of a scenario? Because
No.
I think
No.
it's a bit of a shock. Like I don't think anybody would have expected this person to be with Sean
He
Evans.
is no, but he is a
Even though okay, but
non-trivial
discount
celebrity.
Jamie. he's kind of trivial. He runs a show about hot wings. I mean,
Yeah,
let's
but
be
we've
honest. It's
all
not
heard
like
of this.
it's
Isn't it
not
on
like
Netf-
being on
isn't it
TV.
on like Netflix or something too?
No. It's just
Why do I
no.
think it's on? I don't know why.
No, it's
Well, I
no,
think-
it's YouTube.
Yeah, then he's probably not that big a celebrity. Like,
Yeah, he's not like
Yeah,
he's
it's
not
not
like
huge.
he's not a
But
TV
he's-
But he
sports
has
star.
He's had, like,
he has
major people
access
on his
to
show.
all the celebrities.
Yes.
yeah, but I mean, I'm
He
sure
know
he's-
every celebrity, every major celebrity in America knows him, knows his face, knows his name.
Or
Guaranteed.
they've probably been on a show, and a lot of times they come on
Most
the show
have
and they
been on
don't
a show and
they just
talk.
broadly know the concept. They don't 100% know what's gonna always happen,
They
right? But
if they haven't been on the show, they know who he is.
it was like being on like Zach Galifianakis's Two Ferns show. Like
Yeah,
people
and
knew what
he
the
is
show
a
was about.
non-trivial celebrity.
Zach Galifianakis?
Yeah.
Non-trivial.
big.
He was
He's
in he was in
Just
Hangover.
like-
He
was in
is
a bunch
a
of movies.
non-trivial celebrity. He is a real celebrity.
Yeah, Zach Galifianakis. Sean Evans is a non-trivial. Is a trivial.
I
Is what
think.
you're saying.
I think he is. I think that this man
he's
is a
pretty well known.
non-trivial.
There are
Well,
a
why
lot
don't
of
we throw out some facts?
Interesting.
Like, what is his YouTube following?
Yeah.
How many subscribers?
Yeah,
does he
let me
have?
look.
he's bigger
Bring the
than
fact
most
discount,
YouTube
Jamie.
interviewers. The people I've interviewed YouTube shows and interviews.
People have said
are-
he's a great interviewer.
yeah, he's much bigger than most other ones.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, it's a great show concept. I mean, I've enjoyed. I mean, the Gordon Ramsay episode is by far one of my favorites for sure. It was hilarious. The one with Shaq was also pretty good. But there's lots of good things.
I would
But
guess
I still think it's kind of it's one of the. I think it was just one of the maybe one of those unspoken things. I think there's so many different factors in play. I think like the red pill community is pretty big, and not saying that he's in the red pill thing, but like when you get that could be the majority of the audience is male on YouTube. It's not really female. So if a majority of his audience is male and they're also in that community and they start giving him slack and he's like, oh, I'm going to lose potentially audience on this, then then I could see it just being just a business decision. 100%.
Okay, so First We Feast, which I think is the YouTube channel with Hot Ones. It's
Yes.
First We Feast has 13.2 million subscribers.
That's
All
pretty
right,
good.
so he's actually pretty sizable
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
his following. So yeah, he's not that non-trivial. I think.
I would have guessed that he is the number 2 interviewer on YouTube after Rogan.
No.
No, I don't know about that.
Who do you
I
think?
don't know.
is-
Or are you saying just purely by numbers though? Just number. I mean, I guess you'd have to
Popularity?
clarify.
He has
Yeah,
big,
maybe.
He has big guests on his show. I'm just clicking on this now.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
he's
John
interviewed-
Oliver. I'm
Yeah,
seeing
he's had
Barry
tons of
Kogan.
big people.
Lil
of a
Dicky,
show
Sydney
that's
Sweeney.
just on YouTube.
Exactly.
That's
Where
just
That's
Ruffalo.
because it's a
YouTube
great concept.
that interviews people.
Also, it's this other platform. It's not a singular show, right? It's on this platform. that
I
also
don't think
promotes
I think he's bigger than who else would be bigger?
other than
as-
Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan. I mean, all
Well,
of
Theo
them.
maybe-
Von.
Yeah, Theo
A lot of
Von.
people bigger.
I don't think
Those
they-
people might be bigger
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't know.
Potentially. But yeah, I get your point. But I just think it's just interesting
I guess
that
maybe
it's
Tucker
also
now, I
interesting.
forget
Like
he's on.
it's also kind of
Honestly.
fascinating that much kind of peer pressure to a degree got him to break it off.
Again, we
Yeah.
don't know if
Yeah.
that's true. He
That's
might
true.
just
You-
be
You
doing
guys
this
still
in
haven't
public.
let
2
you-
a.m. drunk text. Hey, I made a mistake. Come over.
Or the problem.
The whole thing I was trying to
I
say.
love what you did
guys
with the
still
fruit
don't let me
basket last
make
time.
my point here.
All right, Joe wants to make his point.
I'm sorry, Joe.
I'm the only one who's actually on camera here. What? I don't understand this concept here. You guys talk the
It's a
whole time,
discussion.
and it just
It's a
looks at me.
discussion format, Joe. You got to get in. You got to. It's like
Yeah,
being at the
right.
kitchen table with a family of
And
10
then- wait,
kids. You
wait,
got
I-
to
Like,
grab
like
the food.
sliding those DMs that you're gonna do soon.
yeah, you got to slide in. Slide in them DM.
You asked me forever ago about the research I was doing. I was just trying to figure out. I was just trying to get information on the actual breakup because my whole reaction to this is that this was just what the woman was saying after the breakup, and we don't actually know anything. One, I don't really care. It's not my business, and I don't care. But I
Well,
only,
have a
I
bit
only
of fun,
care
Joe.
because I only care because you guys are asking about it. But if you're gonna ask me about it, I'm gonna say I don't know what happened. I wasn't there in the room. I don't know why they broke up. We have no idea. They could have broke up for any number of reasons. But upon doing the research, the woman has at least stated that the reason for the breakup was because she did porn, because the woman has stated that the reason for the breakup was because of the work that she did, and
Actively
that
does.
the media attention surrounding the breakup was affecting his work. Now,
Business decision.
and this leads to the only complaint or issue that I would have or resolution for this. You talk about what it's like dating. Um, y- he should know what was going to happen before. He knew this when he started dating someone who worked in that industry.
Well, the whole thing was like he was trying to keep it private. He was just trying to have a bit of fun, as
Yeah,
as
I
our
don't know.
other co-host
Whatever
would
he was
say.
trying. No,
But-
I don't.
And
whatever.
I think this also is leading into a bigger point, right? The internet and large, groups of people are unpredictable.
Right.
Like, they could have as easily just supported him, like gone all out,
Yeah.
given him all the support.
You
that he
go,
would need.
King.
I
Or
don't
they
think
could
the
have
support
criticized
is kind of irrelevant.
No, my point
don't
is
know,
just
I-
that public is just not that predictable. He probably thought, okay, even if they see that I'm dating a corn star, they're gonna be like completely okay with it. It's so unpredictable. Like
It's very unpredictable.
how do you know how large groups of people are gonna
I don't know.
react?
Is it that unpredictable? I feel like
I think you could.
I think it would be fairly easy to assume it's not going to go well.
Well, let's take
Corn.
Trump's.
Corn still has a bad
Then
stigma
how
about it.
come people didn't give Trump all that shit? He was president during when
He
they
did
found
get
They
it. What
out.
do you
gave
mean?
him tons
What do
of
you mean?
shit.
I mean, I
They
don't think
served
The
a
whole
lawsuit
the whole
over it.
Stormy Daniels thing was a huge thing.
It was massive.
Well, I think legally it was a bigger thing than it actually was with public. Like public didn't really factor that in when they voted or didn't
Nah.
vote for him. It, it
Well,
didn't really
but I
matter.
mean, at that point, there had been so many other gaffes that Trump had done that at this point, the people who liked him just liked
so
him
you're saying the
regardless.
moral
Yeah.
of the story is
They're-
like this, if you
the
take
people who
one
like him are
guy-
like, yeah, Trump.
The moral of the
I've watched
story-
Stormy.
The moral of the story is that you should stay on brand.
Yeah.
Trump sleeping with a porn star and paying her however much he paid her is extremely on brand for.
Corn
I'm
star.
so sorry. Sleeping with a corn star and then paying her
Well said.
is extremely on brand for Trump.
Right.
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 The Hot Wings guy dating Melissa Stratton, a mattress actress, is not on brand for him.
I think that's fair. I think yeah, that's true. Like you gotta like play your public image the right way. It's all a game, honestly, man. It's all a marketing project.
Yeah, it's all a
And
marketing.
that's what
Maybe,
pisses
yeah.
me off.
Yeah,
Honestly.
in a lot of cases, yeah, we were talking about this as well about we were arguing about this in the group thread about Paris Hilton and Sydney Sweeney as well. Like they're some of these things are all an act, it's all marketing ploy. Like
Yeah.
Paris Hilton's whole character was a thing. Like there's so many times she was caught on camera, like doing her actual voice, and then she would switch into her character voice. It's hot, and
I've
then
read
she
that,
doesn't sound like that at all now. You interview her now, she doesn't sound anything like that.
I've read
Nothing
that-
is real.
Yeah, it's
Kesha in particular. Remember Kesha? I feel
yeah.
like she's been off for a while.
Ye-
But she especially supposedly is like
Yeah.
deeply, extremely intelligent,
Right.
and her whole thing is like an unabashed act.
100%. Yeah, and I mean, it's not surprising that people this smart would be able to pull that type of thing off because they understand the game. They
Yeah.
learned it, they figured it out, and then they manipulated it to get to wherever it is they wanted to go. So it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if Sean Evans is that clever. I think this is just
Well, he
a
has
case of
13 plus million followers on
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
YouTube. So.
Well, that
That's
was
true,
for
but
the
that's for
whole
the
channel,
channel.
which he is only one piece of.
right. That's
But
what I'm
still,
saying. The
nonetheless.
whole yeah. I don't know
So how-
anything else from that channel, by the
Yeah,
way.
how
I
did
only
he-
know his show.
We don't. How did he get big?
Exactly.
Did he do this just on his own?
Well,
or
arguably
did
he got big watching her corn first, and then he decided to invite her over. And then he was like, "Look how big I am," and she was like, "Wow, that's impressive." And then she came over, and then they did things, and then they took those things in public,
and he had a good
and-
time,
and he had a good time,
and then he said,
thank
you.
and then he didn't have a good time.
Yo, these are just some tips for you in case you want to DM her as well.
Yeah. Definitely try and keep it private. What would you date an OF or corn star?
It depends on what you mean by date.
What are we debate? What are you, Bill Clinton, debating the definition of the word is? What do you mean?
No, I would.
Date, see them
I would see them
over
yeah.
a prolonged period of time.
I would. Yes. Would I be in an exclusive relationship with one? No.
Well, that's not what I asked. I said date.
Would I date? Yeah.
Okay, you wouldn't be in a relationship with them though.
Yes.
Interesting.
But you know,
I didn't expect that answer from you, to be
you
honest.
never know though. Maybe after dating for a long time, maybe change your mind. I don't know. I don't know. I would date someone.
Yeah, I
who
could
did,
never.
yeah.
I could never do it. No, thank you.
Yeah,
One
I
because
couldn't either.
I have a fiance. That's a big reason. But also even if I didn't have a fiance, it would still be a no. Couldn't do it. But it's interesting.
Why?
Because just like this guy, I don't like the stigma of it. I think there's women who get into that are primarily damaged for the most part, and they won't be able to have an actual healthy relationship. Now I know there are some people who do have healthy relationships, but of all the other examples I've seen, it just seems like if you would like something real with somebody that isn't going to have a whole host of problems, it's probably best to stay away from that. And that's just that component, not even the stigma of dating that type or being with that type of person in general. Anyway, some people don't care, and mazel tov to those people. But for me, I would care for what I want to accomplish as well, for what I would want my brand to represent, and that also matters. Your personal brand is a brand, and what you associate yourself with reflects on that. And I personally would want to do it, but I don't have any problem if again, him, Jimmy G, other people. There's lots of other people that do it. It's private. I feel like Sean just didn't. I just feel like he was just naive about the game a little bit, and not the Super Bowl game. I mean the game of being with a corn star. Like most of the time, those people are not out in public with those types of women at things like that. It's always done behind closed doors or in places where they know they can trust people. They get private rooms. They can hang out in clubs, whatever. And there's deniability and things like this. And there's contracts that go around. And there's all kinds of stuff like that ends up happening in these scenarios. And I think he was just like, yeah, let's go. You like the Chiefs? Awesome. I like football. Yeah. Woo-hoo, let's go. I just don't think he thought it through.
But surely she would have commented something to him, a sentence or
Why?
two.
She's going to the Super Bowl.
I don't know. I still think there'd be a sentence or two, or like
She
maybe you're right.
says
Maybe you're right.
she says now that they talked about this before, and that she worried that her profession would affect his work, and that they
Well,
actually
ding, ding, ding. We
and
have
that
a
they
winner,
actually
folks.
talked about this before the Super Bowl, is what she says.
Well, in that case, if that's what she says, we don't know what Sean. I don't know if Sean. I'm pretty sure Sean made some comments on it. I'm not entirely certain, but regardless, it's a business decision. Then at that point, it's pretty clear that that's what happened. But it is interesting that still so many people could have such an
But
influence.
she's saying that they talked about it. She was worried that that her work would affect his, and that this would be a problem for the relationship. And they talked about this, and he assured her that he was okay with it, and then he changed his mind.
See, again,
That's what she says.
again, that's the whole thing. Everything sounds great when you just had some fun times and you're getting more excited about other fun times and you're like, oh yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be great. And then as soon as you get any backlash and your brand and everything, then all of a sudden things change. And of course, it's like, well, those things you say things because you want to you're excited, you're happy, you're having fun, everything. You want to say the right things to your lady, whoever that lady is at the time.
If I
and
could
then
afford
when shit
tickets
hits the
to
fan, you
Super
got to make
Bowl-
decisions.
If I could afford tickets to the Super Bowl, and it being a non-trivial, just yeah, let's go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I would have no problem taking a porn star. I'm sorry.
Corn.
I'm sorry. I would have no problem taking a lady I was dating who had questionable professional standings, and
Did you say corn?
however,
Doing better. Say mattress actress like Discount Jamie did.
I didn't want to repeat
so
his.
great.
I didn't want to
That was-
repeat his
that was
joke.
amazing.
That was very well said. I like.
I mean, that's what they call. That's what they refer themselves as.
Yeah, I didn't personally make that
No,
up.
no,
It's
no,
in
no.
the-
That's what they call themselves. They call themselves
It's
mattress
making
actresses.
What if you're not doing it
Just
on a
making it
mattress?
Doesn't matter. You're still a mattress actress because that's where you start. Anyway,
I think can we
But- But
go
yeah, but having so I would have no problem taking a girl out and taking a girl of that standing out in public. But one, I wouldn't want her to be around my mom. Number one, never. I wouldn't want my mom to know about it. And I definitely
interesting.
now, while I would not mind taking her out in public, there's a difference between going out in public and there's a difference between being seen by like 100 million people.
Yeah, that is super different.
Right. You went to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
And you're famous
mean,
and she's famous, but there's a lot of famous people at the Super Bowl, so he probably wasn't expecting. There's a lot of people at the Super Bowl who are way more famous.
That is the dumbest thing
than him.
The number one thing they do is they point out like there are tons of people that go to the game to see who anybody famous would be there. And these two people are both they're famous enough are recognizable
but they're
by regular people. Mostly men would recognize both of these people, but nevertheless, they're both recognizable enough. But see, what's interesting what you say is you would not want to, what's interesting that you said there is that you would not want to have your mom or people like that know about it. And I think that's also partly a reason, not just business wise, but there's also that as well. Like when you're with that type of person, right? A mattress actress, it's all like fun and ooh, you get the little butterflies, ooh, oh, in many places, right? And then when those realities set in, your mind frame just changes. And that's why he can have that conversation like, "Oh yeah, babe, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We're gonna have a great time. Oh, we're gonna hopefully see your team win because it's in the script." And they didn't call any holding penalties. I mean, come on, dude. It was wild. But anyway,
I also bet on the other team.
yeah. So it's I'm not saying that's bad, but it's just a joke. But it's funny. But he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna see your team, blah blah." Blah. And then as soon as this stuff happens, he's just like, "Oh, Schniza." It's just like it just hits you different once it's out there, and things like that. And that's the whole stigma about this thing, which is interesting, is that stigma still exists, and you can't really do that, right? And I feel bad for women in that profession a little bit because it happens a lot to them, right? Like so many women in that industry say they can't really have a great relationship because of the work that they do and the stigma that comes around it. And a lot of good guys like Sean. I mean, Sean Evans is probably a good dude. Like he was probably a good guy. He probably treated her really well. They probably had a lot of fun. But now it can't continue because of that. So it's like you really got to think about it. And particularly a lot of them after the fact, years after the fact, right? They come out and then they say, "Oh, I have these problems. I shouldn't have done it, and now I'm concerned about why I did it, and da 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 da," because there's still this stigma. Even though, what did you say? Didn't you point out recently that the WHO came out recently and said um, this type of work is a health right? Didn't you sent that? Didn't you?
see, this would have been a much more interesting topic to discuss.
Well, I brought it up just now, so
I
you can make a comment about it. But am I not correct?
I am claiming that the WHO, has
World Health
the
Organization,
World Health Organization
who we
has
can totally trust. Everybody, we can totally trust them. They did not
What are you
mess up
claiming that they
COVID
said?
at all.
they have declared that sexual health is a human right, and not and they have a document that lists what proper good sexual health is, and they've said that this is a human right that is necessary for humanity as much as I guess not
So
quite
that
as much as food and shelter, but a step below that. When
I
people
would
say
hope
like
that
not.
statement is
love is
extremely vague. I don't know what any of that means. I'm trying
Okay,
to Google it right now and like
I sent it on the
exactly.
chat. So
This
Like,
was exactly my point.
there is a but they have on the site where they release this, there is a bullet pointed list of things that they include in there, and their purposes are mostly for talking about issues like rape and domestic violence, and also
Can't say
the
that word
alphabet.
either. Can't say that word either.
It's
Grape.
about domestic violence and the alphabet club and making sure that they're all happy. But it did include things like fulfillment, and that fulfillment was one of the bulleted points, and just I think pleasure, just making sure it said to make sure that both parties are having pleasure, but like it was emphasizing that sexual pleasure was a part of a healthy sexual life, which is a human right, and therefore sex workers are health workers.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's another next episode. We'll talk about this, and
Yes.
I'll expand upon this because this is much more interesting.
Interesting. Yes, it is vastly interesting. But again, we can totally trust the WHO with these kinds of things because they haven't been wrong or screwed up about anything ever. So I don't know about that, but
I do think that
you know
should
who
be
was
illegal.
really enjoying his his rights. Sean Evans, for a period of time, he was enjoying it. So
Well, I don't think he
anyway,
was paying for it.
no, that's also God bless him. God bless him, but it turned out to be a thing where just couldn't do it. Generally, if I could do a uh, 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 final word, if you will, similar to Jerry. If I could do a Jerry's final word on this, I would just say, at the end of the day, you are 100% right, Joe. None of this really, like, who cares? It's just two people who were in a thing, and now they're not in a thing. And why should we all really care? It's just, this stuff happens in life, right? But at the same time, it does show quite a lot of interesting things that still exist in our society and culture that's worth talking about around corn and OnlyFans and these things where so many it's so mainstream, so many people have access to it, so many people are looking at it and using it and seemingly are okay with it if it's in private, but as soon as any inkling of it goes public, then all of a sudden it changes and turns, and people have a negative persona about it, even though they have a very positive persona about it in private. So it's just it's an interesting dichotomy between
I think
public
they
and private life and what is acceptable and what is still not acceptable, what is fashionable and what is not fashionable in our culture and society today, what I think is an interesting note for us to continue to consider as we think about what is important, what we consider to be important, and what is decent and what is indecent.
the,
And where should we draw those lines, and are they blurred or not?
those mattress actresses are tremendously underpaid.
Wow, what a
Some of them.
some
There's
of
a
them.
huge disparity in corn star income.
The
There
number
is
Huge
and
disparity.
OF income.
if we were just talking about the number of views that Sean Evans has on his YouTube. I don't know what kind of views Melissa Stratton gets, but I know that there are quite a few
They're probably
actresses
comparable.
who they get a lot of views.
Mm-hmm.
They get
sure
a
do.
lot of views.
They sure do, buddy. They sure
A lot more
do.
than most people realize and think about.
Definitely a lot more than us
And
right now.
yeah, for the amount of views that they're getting, they're not getting adequately paid. That's another topic.
Indeed.
Another time. That I want
Indeed.
to get on.
Indeed. Anybody else got anything they want to say before we wrap this up about this topic? Foreign guy, discount Jamie.
I have a lot of things I want to say, but I think I'll save it for another time.
All right, fair enough. Foreign guy, any last words from you on this? How is it in your country, foreign guy?
That's
Very
what I
different, very
want to know.
different.
I have been noticing an increase on certain websites in people from your country.
Well, nobody knows where I'm from, so that's
For-
not,
I've
He's
been
just
seeing,
foreign.
could be, yeah, I'm just
but I've been
foreign
seeing
guy.
the numbers. They were quite small. I was shocked at how small the numbers had been.
That's not the only thing that's small. Oh, zinga!
I'm like, but the numbers are growing steadily. That is a very largely, but still, while the numbers are
I will
growing,
say this,
it's a
though.
very largely untapped
I will say
market.
this, that in my country, it's actually officially all blocked. All kinds of corn is blocked. Although that's the case, people do find ways to
That they will.
watch some corn.
You shouldn't have said
The
that,
dark-
foreign
the
guy.
dark
Now I
web.
know what country you're from.
Well, I could
Must
be
be
from
North
I could be
Korea.
from exactly
Nah,
China,
it's-
North Korea,
there's
many
a-
countries. Lots of
There's a
options
few
there.
countries. There's a few countries it's blocked.
That's
Quite
true.
a few actually.
There's true. It can be. And you know what? A lot of parents also try and block it, but kids have mischievous ways of finding that corn.
This is a good time for a sponsor, NordVPN.
Do you need a VPN so you can do your evil scheming on the interwebs? NordVPN. So you can find the best corn for your corny needs.
And so the people in China can watch us, since I'm not allowed there anymore.
Yeah, that's right. You got to stop pissing on and stealing
Yeah,
parts of the Great Wall,
you can
dude.
kiss that trip to the Great Wall again. Goodbye, bro. It's done. Done.
Now, that would be one hell of a corn doing it in the Great Wall. I'll tell you that. So, on that note, what do you all think about this? We talked about so many interesting things. We talked about the wokeness of Google AI. What is the impacts of AI in this? And would you regulate it? Would you not regulate it? Let us know what you think in the comments. We would appreciate it. And also, well, this whole Sean Evans, Corn Star, Melissa Stratton thing, does it matter? Does it not matter? Does it reflect our society? What would you do? Would you date an OF or Corn Star? Let us know all about that in the comments as well. And if you are enjoying listening to us talk about these things and trying to bring you informed opinions and decisions and things, we would appreciate you smacking that like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can keep getting more of our content. We are not going to stop bringing it to you because we enjoy it too much. And also because we need to talk about our times because we are men of the times. And we will see all of you next time.